Okay, go ahead.
I'd like to call the December 2nd meeting of the Conservation Advisory Council to order, and why don't we go through the roll?
Okay, sure. Ellen DeViro,
Here.
Amanda Matusik, Amanda,
I think she's muted.
Yeah,
okay,
Amanda's here, I see her, but
okay. Jeannie Orr,
Here, sorry
here.
about that.
that's okay. Tina Lee,
Here.
Chelsea Ratner,
Here.
Jill Connell,
So I think Jill said she couldn't come. That's the one I remember.
okay, Catherine Harder,
Here.
and Ashok Ramasubramanian,
Here.
and
great,
Chairman Strayer.
here.
Okay,
Okay, great. We have the meeting minutes of September 2nd. So if everybody's had a chance to look at them, I would entertain any changes or corrections to them.
There was just a minor thing in line 71. The to and add were together, so it looks like toad instead of to add.
I was wondering if there was such a thing as toad links. So
It is to add, right?
Do we have any? Do we have any other comments or corrections? I had one on line 54. It said Chairman Strayer questioned the idea of allowing residents. I think I asked if they could use it. It just sounds like I was questioning whether it's minor, but.
Oh,
Lori,
yeah.
on
So we
mute.
can make that change. We could say,
Asked if residents could take soil from
ask if
compost
residents
made
could
by the
take.
town.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yep. So we'll change that from
And then
question
you
19.
stated that the town doesn't
ask it.
compost, so.
Yeah.
Okay, any other
I had
comments?
one minor item also. In line 146, Mr. Ramasubramanian stated that every platform has different hashtag forums, FORUMS. It should be forms, FORMS.
Okay, got it. You can see how much I know about hashtags. Got it.
Okay, if we have no other comments, I would accept the motion to adopt the minutes if someone wants to make it.
I move we adopt the minutes with the noted changes.
I'll
Okay, do we have a
second.
second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, it was carried unanimously. Clark, did you get who seconded?
I think it was Tina, right?
Clark?
It was Tina. Yeah.
That's- Okay.
all right,
Okay, what I'd
I
like
had
to-
muted myself, sorry.
Okay. I would like to open the privilege of the floor. I don't know if we have anyone here online, but if you would like to talk to the committee, you may do so now. We just ask that you give your name and your address for the record.
Jackie, Miss Centrini, you can go ahead and speak under privilege of the floor if you're interested.
Hi, thank you, Laura. Hi, everybody. My name is Jackie Citriniti, Citriniti, and I'm on Riverdale Road in Niskayuna. And I was actually just walking with Ashok today, and we got talking about Niskayuna. And I've been a resident here for 15 years. My son went through the schools here, and my husband works at GE. I'm an environmental educator, and I walk through Blatnick Park and the trails and the woods every day, almost. I can tell you everything in every inch of the area. And I've had a lot of concerns, and I went online tonight to try to see if the advisory council had a mission statement and or goals that you were trying to read. I couldn't find them on the website. I'm not happy with the website, the town website, so I'd like to work that too. But I was looking to see or what in your goal or what the town is looking to achieve from a conservation standpoint. I'm concerned about noise pollution, traffic increase, diversity and things being mowed and taken down quicker than you can blink, and the information not getting out to residents. I can list a lot of other than chemical use in my neighborhood. It's horrible. So there's a lot of issues. I didn't know if your goal was to, publish a conservation booklet for the town and things and ways that residents can be conservation friendly. I tried to look on the website. I also, before I moved here, lived in Clifton Park, and I worked for over 10 years with a group there called Citizens Against Reasonable Expansion. And we worked at development and the town getting the 45% green space requirement to the board. So, and I know Niskayuna doesn't have that. So I didn't know what I could offer. I just quick had emailed Laura saying I'd love to talk to her further if there was availability or something I can do to help, or direction or feedback or any of that. So I just wanted to kind of go on public record and introduce myself and put a face with a name, and kind of leave it at that. I know usually in open time you can't ask a lot of questions and feedback, but yeah, I just have a lot of concerns. The green space is dwindling very quickly here, and the farm right down the street is going to get developed, and I'm not happy about that. And lighting, I was thinking, like, does the town have a big master plan for all of traffic and lighting and development and green space and all of those things? So it was nice to hear that this board is here, and I would love to know, again, a mission statement or goals or what you're going to be working on, and if there was anything I could do to volunteer to help with that. So thank you for your time tonight. And Laura does have my phone number. I emailed her and gave her that as well. So.
Well, thanks for the offer of helping out. And, thanks for the suggestions. I think, Laura, you said that you were going to reach out to Jackie, or vice versa? Okay. We do have a mission statement. I'm sorry it's not on the web. I remember working on it. And the town does have a comprehensive plan, which is online. And there actually is a large section of that plan dedicated to open space and parkland. You might want to take a look at it, but we're always concerned about the issues that you've brought up. And I think the idea of a pamphlet is actually a very nice one. Did anybody else have any comments on the committee, or?
This is Ashok. I just wanted to second what Chairman Strayer said. A pamphlet or some other way of reaching the residents and informing them of not just our committee but other committees would be really good. We do as a town seem to be somewhat underinformed about government and what options are available to us. And I just met Jackie today, and she's been living here for a number of years, and she didn't know that we existed. even though she had a number of points to raise that would be of interest to us. And this is my 12th year in Niskayuna, and until the beginning of 2020, I didn't know we existed. So, I think some kind of outreach, and I know we plan to discuss this a little bit later on. Just wanted to say that. Thanks.
Thank you all for your time.
Yeah, and I think, does she know about Ellen's work? I mean, Ellen has been doing a lot of great work with her concern about pesticides, and we're trying to educate the town on options for growing greener yard lawns without chemicals. So we did host someone from Cornell Extension to talk about that. So this is definitely the place to share all of your concerns and ideas for, because all the things that you're saying are the things that we do want to do and move toward. Because we all care about our town and our environment, and so any little part that we can play, I think, is really vital.
So I think that it would be awesome to have some of those, to try to translate some of those ideas. I know that that I'm hoping, that we can, do the pesticide free, and then we're going to move on to, re-examining that, the no mow or the low mow, and then, kind of move forward on those. But it would be nice to, have an outline, and, and to have more people that, I think the best place for us to share what happens in Niskayuna is in our Niskayuna. And writing is really not my forte, but it would behoove us as a town to start using that forum to put in notices about things that are occurring in our town, that we want people to know about, because everybody gets our Niskayuna. And it is a nice way to share and inform things that are going on. I'm not exactly sure how to make all those connections, but I think that is a gold mine sitting there that we are not tapping as a town.
Oh, please forgive my ignorance. Like, what is this Our Niskayuna? Like, is it a website? Is it a newsletter? Is it an email?
You get it every Thursday in your mailbox, and it is it's basically done by the Gazette, and usually it's just a repeat of stories that happened in either Niskayuna or Schenectady or in Clifton Park too. Do they carry Clifton Park as well? Sometimes, yeah. And then it's just, letters to the editors, sports, like that kind of news articles. But we could really, I think, as a town, use it to help, let people know what's going on. So that's my 2 cents. Sorry.
And how do you subscribe to this?
You don't. You get it in your mailbox.
Yeah, you should be checking your mail every Thursday or Friday. Are you getting? It's a big, Wait, does anyone have one at home? It's it's square shaped.
I have to be honest, it goes right in recycle.
I think
it's all redundant information, and I don't think that's a good place to put information, but because I don't think a lot of people read it.
Actually, we read it, but maybe Ashok needs to see if he gets it at his house. But that's actually an interesting question. How many people actually read the Your Niskayuna? I thought that Ellen's idea was good, but if people aren't reading that, I don't have no idea.
I think it's worth a shot.
No choice.
Because I think the other thing too is that going to the website for our Niskayuna, for the Niskayuna website, if you're a busy parent, you're not, from my experience, I did not check the Niskayuna website except if I was looking for something in particular. I wasn't going there to get updates. I was, more involved in, whatever my kids were doing. And then more as I get older, I'm doing more of that. So.
Yeah, I think communication is always a challenge, and it's both ways. So Jackie, I would encourage people you speak speak with, if they have concerns and stuff, they should certainly plan on coming towards to our meetings, and they can always have privilege of the floor and speak. We get a lot of good ideas from privilege of the floor, so I highly encourage that.
Great, thank you for your time. I do have a 7:30 Zoom, but one other just quick thought was, I don't know, as a parent and as a child trying to instill environmentally conscientious practices, I think we need to hit kids in school and families. And if there's a way to connect with PTAs or PTOs or things through school and newsletters, there's scout groups that constantly want to do environmental jobs. You know, there's ways to get in even younger than just hitting the adults. Because I think adults listen to kids. So that was my other thought. But
Oh, so this is an update, Jackie, because Rosemary Jakewith is helping all of the town committees add student representatives. Is that right? Yeah.
Yep.
So that's definitely in progress.
well, again, thank you all very much for your time and everything that you're doing. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, good night.
Good night. I don't think we have anybody else who is going to speak, so I'll close privilege of the floor and move on to the environmental assessment form referrals. And we have EAF 2020-07, 2627 Troy Schenectady Road. We've looked at this before. We looked at it at the last meeting. And I think where we were last meeting was Joel Bianca, who's the developer, basically said if we wanted to go out and take a look at the property, and I personally went out and looked at it, and I don't know if others did. We wanted to just take a look at the property before we made a decision on it. So let's open the floor for discussion if we have any other further questions about it. Laura, you probably can fill us in on any details. So this is the Shannon Boulevard property. And Joel will be renovating the existing house and subdividing the property into 3 additional lots for a 4-house subdivision, and build 3 additional houses. And it backs up on the Elijah Kill, and he will be deeding a segment of the property that's currently zoned land conservation to the town, which will provide access to a town park on the north, which then will provide access to the Nature Conservancy plot, which is adjacent to the town. And Laura's showing it right now, just so everybody's familiar with what we're talking about.
Sorry, guys. I share my screen and then forget to take myself off of mute. Yeah, the last meeting that we had, and I thought that Joel was going to be here, but it doesn't look like he's in the call. But we talked about putting the split rail fence along here because Dark can speak to this. Like, there's some really, really large. I mean, my guess is old growth because it's steep. And so it probably wasn't farmed because it's very steep, but like in on these steep hills and stuff, really, really big trees. And it's really interesting, nice land. So one, it keeps people on this path from wandering into these people's backyards, but also it keeps backyards from encroaching into the open space. And Joel was very amenable to that. So I think like my suggestion would be any recommendation we have to continue to carry that forward because it's good, a recommendation. And Joel also seemed to be okay with that. Another couple of things we've heard are concerns from neighbors. You know, there was a lot of feeling in the neighborhood that this was supposed to be open space forever. So it's hard. And I think generally speaking, traumatizing for people to lose this forest. It's a very nice forest. And so to any extent that is possible, moving trees and referring any way that we can save the trees, like combining or putting the driveways close together, anything we can do to save as many trees as possible was another goal. And I think the last time, I'm just trying to summarize some of the comments we had, was we really want to make sure that that buffer to the Leisha Kill is strong and safe. I can't remember if there's anything else that we talked about.
We had talked potentially about facilitating some sort of land swap with the developer, or with the Nature Conservancy, so we could make that connection. I don't know if that's going to be part of this or not.
Oh, yes. I think we should put that in any recommendation we make as well. I got an email from Paul Gallery, the manager for the Leisha Kill that works with the town of Niskayuna. And he's actually been getting calls from people in the area who are really excited to build and establish a southern trail to the Leisha Kill. And he's very amenable to whatever way works the best, whether it be, that the town owns the land and grants an easement to the Nature Conservancy for access, or whether we turn that land directly over to the Nature Conservancy to own. They are willing to look at either way, but making it an access point to the Lake of Hill is obviously a huge public benefit to the town that we want to also capture.
Where will the access point be again?
So here's I can do a different map too, but here's the Nature Conservancy smidge, and here's Route 7's down here, and this is actually a place that you can drive into now. It's like an old pump station or something. So we're thinking like parking area right here, very small parking area. It can't hold a lot of cars, and then yeah, there's already a trail that goes here. The trail actually goes down into the Most Holy Redeemer Cemetery, which we don't own, which is why he made this very wide, because you can see, and Clark walked this when we did a site walk, is that you can make a relatively decent path that goes down this where it's not so deep down in this area. And then you hit town of Niskayuna property, and then you can go back up kind of to the Nature Conservancy. It's still not all from there. I'll show you guys if you want to see. It's still quite a contoured area over there, but Nature Conservancy is willing to look at it and help us do it. So this is where we're looking here. You see this like panhandle? This is the Nature Conservancy land right here, but it is quite steep still. I think Dart was out there and he was saying like this is still steep, but we're thinking if we like side swipe the hill in here, we might be able to get a trail established.
Yeah, I think from my view on that map, where it winds up after that narrow driveway access, I think the steep part is closer to the river, so I think you would avoid that. And I think that's what I was talking about when I talked to you, Laura, that it's the residents right on the back end of that ridge where it becomes kind of cloudy where that access is.
Here?
But once we get into the top there, I think it's fine. But if you're down by the river, it's very steep. You can't get up.
Yeah, but he said there was an old path in here that they are looking at reestablishing. It's big trees. They're beautiful. So that's that. Do you guys have any questions, or do you want to jump into the assessment form?
I had a quick question, please. So the creek that runs through it. So when I visited the site, which was like more than a month ago at this point, I did not have access to the updated plan. I was still working with the old plan at that point. So Dot, you said that you visited it recently. So are you satisfied that like I'm looking at question 13B here, would the proposed action physically alter or encroach into any existing wetland or water body? Are you satisfied that there is a reasonable buffer between the the fence that we talked about and the water body?
Yeah, I think it's pretty good as far as that buffer. It's kind of interesting. Right along the Elijah Kill, the drop off, as Laura said, is quite steep in some locations. And then it strikes me as it's kind of flat in part of the area, and then sort of in particular, in the first house, it's, on Route 7, it's a fairly flat lot, but you have a very wide buffer. But then the property tends to break towards Shannon Boulevard, right along near where that ridge line is, where the conservation advisory, I mean, where the land conservation line is, as far as the best I can tell. So I think it does protect the watershed there. So I think it's appropriate.
I'm talking about like a 200-foot buffer about
Yeah,
the
it's
stream.
good.
Yeah, and then he's pulling away from the LC here so that you can go, because basically where this LC line is on this aerial here, I'll make it brighter. This, right, is where he's breaking, everything away. So,
Laura, I think it would be helpful if in that view, you just kind of walk everyone through where lot 1, 2, 3, and 4 are, where that little parking area is, and show them how someone would walk from Route 7 back to the land conservation.
yeah. Well, I guess you can see it. Okay, so this like comparing this map. Oh, I zoomed in. Sorry. Oops. I should prepare my computer more for the meetings. I have too many things open in my computer. IT hates me. So, oops. Okay, so if you're looking at this map here, right, to this guy, like this LC zone is this blue, right? And then this little triangle up here is the land conservation area. So you're talking about parking down here off of Route 7. Here's the entrance to Shannon Boulevard with the, here's the existing home. And, you would be able to walk on this flat area up through here where all this LC zone is. And then you kind of curl yourself down and then you're going to work up. And this is like, it does get a little tricky. In here, you're going to work up in through here to get to the main part of the Lishkill. And then the lots, or the existing lot here, which is this guy, lot 1 is the existing home, is right here, the existing home. And then you have 2, 3, 4. Actually, I think that's backwards. I think this is 4, and then 3, 2, 1. But you kind of get a sense. So 4, 3, 2, 1. And then you have the open space over here.
Laura, I think one of the concerns we had last month was about lots 1 and 2, the ones on the back end, like because they're very steep.
Yes, we did talk about
how are the houses going to be oriented and positioned, and I don't know if that's changed since last month or not. I haven't compared this map from this month to the map from last month, so I don't know if anything was thought about or resolved or changed, I guess, because of the steepness and knocking down the trees and things like that. That's going to be a real steep area as far as drainage goes and all that. If you're taking out all the erosion control from the existing trees and vegetation.
Yeah, I mean, we did have another site walkthrough since the last CAC meeting, and like generally speaking, when we discuss lot 1, which is the steepest, lot 2 really isn't, I think, generally speaking, too bad. Lot 1 is steep, and so they've talked about like tucking the house into the side of the hill and having like instead of a walkout basement to the back, it's essentially a walkout basement to the front, because it would be like the front of the house would be facing out the slope. But I think, and then there are building permit and kind of town code that governs building permit issues. If you remove that many trees and there's erosion and stuff, you may have to put in check dams or rain gardens or whatever you need to do to kind of slow that stormwater down. But I don't disagree that anytime you take down vegetation on a steep slope like that, there are some negative environmental impacts. It should certainly be noted. If you're looking that into a balance of everything, it's definitely something, the developer really feels he truly can do it. He feels that you can build a house right into the side of that hill and really limit the amount of clearing that you're doing. And the planning board has discussed that lot back and forth with him a lot. I don't think he's willing to give it up, but it definitely is right on the edge of what is and is not doable, and you'd have to be really careful with it. There's no question.
Okay, is there something that we should put into our comments regarding that? That so that concern is noted.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you could either say, like truly, you would rather not see lot number 1 developed at all, or you have your concerns and you would want, drainage and runoff and soil erosion and everything to be very thoroughly reviewed on any building plan for that. You could do that in a number of ways.
Yeah, so Amanda, what were you thinking would be appropriate here?
I'm thinking at least, we should put in our comments as far as like Laura said, making sure that the erosion control and the drainage and the runoff is mitigated in any circumstances, no matter how that home is put in there. Is it, and that's why I was wondering if any change had been made to like where the house is being located or in relation to the layout of the land. I haven't actually walked that property, so I don't have a picture in my mind of what it looks like. So I'm kind of going by the topo map.
Yeah, I would concur with Laura. I think lot 1 was the one that looked the steepest to me. I actually was pleasantly surprised with the rest of the land because it seemed a lot flatter at the top. So, lots 3 and 2, I think that's definitely not an issue. It's a little steep going into lot 2 from the street, it goes up a little bit, but yeah, it's really lot 1 that's steep. I don't think it's any steeper than other lots I've seen in Niskayuna though, with houses. But, I think it could be tastefully done.
Is there do we have parameters that are used for the town with how far or how close we build and how much of a buffer we put in before we, to provide for this runoff and to, prevent, like pesticides from lawns and stuff going into that, the river below? Do we have a?
Yeah, we do have a 50-foot buffer to streams, but he actually put that in his plans. I can show you. He's outside of the buffer that we regulate.
Okay.
And we do also have a code that basically says, and he doesn't have the engineering on this, but the engineering would say that you can't make a runoff worse than what currently exists. So like Joel would typically, just have a quick engineering study done showing what the runoff is for lots, and then show that any of the increase in impervious that he is making would be equal or less to what's there. And it may end up being that you need to put some kind of a rain garden or something over there because you're going to have to kind of like bench the water so that it doesn't go flying off now.
So is this like a, you don't know till you do it, or do we have like, you know what I mean? Like, or is it?
I mean, I think it's to the point where you guys would need to at least make a recommendation and then put all of your concerns in there. And it can be, I don't like that lot. I at all. I don't like that lot, but look at these things, or that lot is fine. Really, we're only talking about lot one. And then I think the planning board would do the final engineering on it. But the planning board's task is to make sure that the water isn't of equal or lesser volume, and that equal or better quality is actually New York state law, and the planning board would look at that for sure. It isn't, he can't actually make it worse through his engineering studies, but overall you can look at the environmental impacts of that and put that in your recommendation. And I do think that Joel did join, so if you guys have questions directly for him, you could direct them to him as well. He's here.
Hey, Laura, sorry I joined late. I was driving back from Boston and I had a breakdown in the snow.
Yeah, we're just talking about lot one. There's just concern that it's too steep to be developed. And there was a question on if you had changed the location of the house at all to be more in line with what the slope and what the footprint of the home is going to be.
Well, I think when we did the walk, we all talked about, the driveway, we're going to put the driveway in on the left and have the house overlook the culvert, or, the gully, and kind of do like a Frank Lloyd Wright type house, overlooking that nice water feature. I think when I just showed up, people were talking about it's too steep for drainage or water going into the culvert.
Well, so the concern is, and we've seen that we've seen this, I think, as a CAC before, is when you clear a steep slope, when you clear it, it's hard to maintain soil erosion and sediment control, because the trees are what is naturally slowing down the water, and when they get cleared, it's hard to hold a slope like that together.
Yeah, but we had sited that house in that clearing. We left basically all those large oak trees, and even possibly that large white pine. So it's like, we're not going to be taking down a lot of trees. I don't see us taking down a lot of trees. And I don't think that lot's that steep at all, really. I mean, it's built on steeper.
So when I walked the property, Joel, I hope I'm remembering it correctly, but correct me if I'm wrong. There seemed to be trees along Shannon Boulevard in lot one. It was treed, or had it opened up yet?
No, I just removed the brush, and I think the surveyor completed the markers right now. So if anybody wants, if you want to walk it again, that lot one should be delineated pretty good now. Yeah, you can almost see.
I think I'm good. What I was going. Go ahead, Joel.
I was going to say, you can see from those topo lines that there's actually like a plateau in there,
Mm-hmm.
I talked to Linda Champagne, and she said that the Marion Craigier was a Girl Scout pack leader, and she used to have campouts back there, Laura. So I was thinking maybe that round thing was some kind of like Girl Scout camp area, but I had some guys metal detect it, and they didn't really find anything, but I'm still trying to figure out what that round area is. You could see it in the picture or in the topos there,
Linda would know. She was the town historian for years.
Yeah, I gave her all the Laura, remember that picture thing? Yeah, I gave that to her, and she knew some of the people in it, and I gave her all. There were some old photos and of hers framed and everything, so I gave her all that stuff. So she packed her car with stuff.
Hello, Joel, this is Ashok. I had you mentioned that your intent is to clear as few trees as possible.
Yeah.
I'm an engineer myself, and I think like there are two issues at stake here. One is, the house being built comfortably and safely in a slope. And the second is the issue of environmental degradation and soil erosion, which always happens when natural landscapes are cleared, but it's especially, as you know, problematic when slopes are involved. So I was wondering if you can address the second issue. Engineers are guided by codes and safety factors and things like that, and I'm sure that problem is a solvable problem. But I was wondering if you can address the second issue of the environmental impact and the soil erosion that would inevitably happen.
Yeah, Shook, on that lot there, the intention was to put in a 24-inch culvert pipe for the driveway because the culvert's pretty deep there. Okay, so you put the 24-inch culvert pipe in, and then you use the excavated material for the driveway. All right. So basically, you're not shedding that excavated material down the hill, towards the gully. You're reusing it in the driveway up front. You could see the culvert, right at the start of the driveway. That culvert would be filled with the material from the excavation. And, even if when we dig that house, we're not going to dig it and put the fill all downhill to the right, because then you got to bulldoze it or get it back up the hill somehow. When you dig that, you dig it and put it up to the left, So it basically, if there was any kind of disturbance anyways, we would restore it, and plan it. And, again, I've committed to taking down as few trees as possible. And you got to realize too that, as a part of that commitment, the town's getting a 1.35 acre beautiful park. I mean, this park it's amazing that, people can park legally now where they all park illegally and walk down and access the Leishkill. I mean, it's to me, it's a great opportunity.
Joel, I was just thinking, we've talked about that excavation and limiting the tree clearing a lot. But if you look at we've talked about limiting the excavation on lot 1 a lot. And I really think it can be done, but on these plans, it kind of shows that the whole slope would be cleared. And I wonder, because the engineer is basically just saying like, here, we're going to set the new slope. I wonder if you could tighten that up a little bit so it shows more on the plan that you're really trying to limit the impact to the slope, or put a note on there that you're limiting the impact to the slope.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah. I mean, from my perspective, I think you've picked the driveway in the best possible place because you basically have only a 6-foot rise, which is really good. And I think if we were to leave, the existing trees, and that's why I asked along Shannon Boulevard, along that area there, that would tend to mitigate, I think, concerns that the neighbors may have from a visual impact standpoint.
Yeah.
And you really have your steepest slope going off into the town park there.
Yeah.
But Dart, I mean, I don't know, the neighbors, yeah, it's nice to appease neighbors, okay, but it's kind of getting ridiculous because, by code, I mean, it's R1, I can build these houses, okay? And I'm kind of bending over backwards, and the whole town is getting a 1.35 acre park. I mean, the whole town, okay? Okay, the 3 neighbors across the street, yes, I'm going to try to do as much as possible, but if you look back at the history of Avon Crest North, I had all the paperwork from Avon Crest North. I had every newspaper. All right. I mean, Friedman went in there and he started clear cutting trees before he had any kind of, he before he even applied for any kind of permits. I mean, he said, well, people want the firewood, you know? I mean, I'm a lot more responsible for that, but it's just getting annoying, you know, listening to neighbors. I'm losing my view of the trees. Well, plant some trees on your own front lawn then, you know?
Well, Joel, every time you have this conversation, it's with a different board. So it may seem a little frustrating, but each board is looking at it from a different angle. So I know it's a long process, but you know, it's still
Laura,
important.
I'm going to go out there with the tree committee, and we're going to site the driveways. We're going to tag trees. I mean, I don't know.
This is a different board. They haven't heard you say that before. I know it's frustrating to you, but that's what they're looking at. They haven't heard you say that before.
Who hasn't heard you say that? The CAC?
Yeah, this board.
Oh, sorry. All right, so let me say it clear then. All right. The whole intention was to have my surveyor stake the lots out, and I'm pretty sure he did that because I got a bill for it. I haven't been over there yet, but you know, I'll walk it with the tree committee, with the CAC, with the planning board, whoever wants to walk it with me. You know, we could site the driveways to make sure that we got them in the correct locations, right? You know, and save as many trees as possible.
Yeah, and that's huge. I think that's really, really important. Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to put a split rail fence in, you know, to delineate the backyards of the houses from the town park land. And, you know, people walk in town park. Walk back, you know. I mean, every day that I'm over there, I see people, you know, parked off a roof walking.
I don't know if there's some feedback coming from you. Can you mute yourself?
I think the only legal, right, Dart? Oh, I can't hear him now.
I missed that.
I said you were probably the only legal person that was walking that area.
Yeah, I was amused by your note. I'm sorry I didn't.
Oh, that day that you were walking too, Dart. I mean, you could tell the board how many other people were walking it that day. There was like 3 sets of people. I think even when Dart was there. I mean, it's a well-used park already. It's not a park, private property.
Yeah. So, does anyone else have any other specific questions for Joel? Because I don't want to keep you, Joel, longer than we need to.
I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to say thanks for the effort to, you know, save as many trees and to put the border up. These are things that are appreciated. So I just wanted to say that.
I'm glad you said that, and I apologize for ranting like a crazy old man. You know, once in a while I do that.
I would also like to say that I'm very grateful for your decision to save as many trees as possible, and for your decision to deed a substantial portion of the property to the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay, does anybody have any other specific questions for Joel? Okay, so if you guys are good, then I'll pull up the part 2 and we can go through it and add our notes.
Sure.
Okay. Hold on. Okay, here it is. Whoops. I want me to share my screen so you can see. And okay. Okay, so I'll go through and anytime on any of the questions there's a note that we want to make, like, you know, I can make the note. And then we'll just summarize quickly what any of the recommendations we want to the planning board at the end. And then again, I do type it up in a more like fleshed out form from the minutes after. But so question number 1 is, will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulation?
I would say no. I think we've mitigated the sole conflict that could have possibly arisen, and that was the conservation land area near the Elijah Kill. So.
Yeah, okay, so that one's mitigated by deeding the LC land to the town / potentially Nature Conservancy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land? I mean, it's probably noticeable. I mean, it's not no, it's small, I would think, because it's only 4 lots. So, I mean, we have seen that as a change of intensity of use, but maybe mitigated by, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I think small.
Small. So I'll put small. And there we can just acknowledge, you know, that you are losing trees, and it is very important that the developer is trying to preserve as many of them as possible. We can acknowledge that there.
Yes, I'd like that note like explicitly stated, like for the record when it goes in front of the planning board.
Yeah, so, okay, so this note will be mitigated. I will flesh this out and make it much better, but just so that we all see the notes we're thinking. Okay. I just move this over. Okay. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? I feel, again, that's probably no or small, and saving as many trees as possible is important here too.
Laura, if I may make a comment here, like Joel said, it's private land, it's legal to develop there. But we've also heard that you know, many of the neighbors are you know, unhappy. The word community is there in question 3. I mean, we're not going to do anything you know, for the residents who are complaining, like, but can we at least make a note that residents' concerns were heard, or something, you know, some acknowledgement that they spoke up and their voices were heard.
Yeah, but there's 3 neighbors complaining about the loss of trees, but the whole town gets a park.
I know. I know it's really hard to tell when we're on a virtual meeting, but when you're working through the speaker form, it's you know.
I'm going on mute.
Okay.
You know, I understand that. I'm just saying, you know, like, you know, having read about conflicts in lots of places, even if we don't address those issues, like, or give them their way, just the fact that they were heard, you know, moves a long way towards reducing, you know, hard feelings.
Yeah, there's no problem with the note there. They may not, you know, get everything they need, but we did listen. We tried to listen. Number 4, we pretty much always answer no. The proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics for critical environmental area. We don't have them, Ms. Kino, so that one's a sort of a hard no. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway? I think generally speaking, we say no. You know, there may be a small impact to the driveways, you know, adding to Shannon Boulevard, but very small. And then the balance to that would be that you're getting a new trail opportunity for the town residents. Is
Yeah.
my
There may be more walking.
I'll just can't really fit that here. I'll just put driveways versus new trail.
Yeah.
Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy, or fail to reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities? I just shushed him, but Joel, I mean, you would use all high conservation energy light bulbs in any construction that you did if you were to build the house and stuff like that, right? You usually do. There's actually building code that regulates that. It's kind of up to you guys what you put there.
Yes, Laura.
Okay. Okay. Will the proposed action impact existing public-private water supplies? No. No. Okay. Or wastewater treatment utilities. I just think, I mean, Joel had to pay trunk fees on the lots, but generally speaking, if you add 4 homes to the, you know what, it's not the end of the world on these. Thank you. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? I think as long as, and Joel, and we didn't actually touch on this too much, but Joel is gonna try really hard to protect that historic home. I think he's gonna try and shore it up a little, and then see if he can get somebody interested in taking it on as a restoration project. So I would say no small, and just put in a note. It's up to you guys, that it's really important to preserve the historic home as much as possible.
Yeah, no, I would concur with that, Laura.
The existing house on lot 4, how old is it?
1909.
1909. Okay.
Sears, it's a Sears package home, believe it or not.
Really?
It's a Sears catalog home. Linda told me that. Yep. And I actually got the Sears catalog that it was ordered from.
That's cute. That's awesome. My house is a Sears kit home too. That's awesome.
It is. Wow.
Mhm.
Yeah, my grandparents lived in a Sears house as well that my grandfather built. But I guess it was really popular.
Well,
at the time.
please forgive my cultural ignorance. I'm an immigrant. Can somebody quickly explain what that means?
You could order a
Sears Roebuck
catalog.
Go ahead, Joel. You can take this one.
Well, Chuck, you know, Sears kind of went out of business, but Sears and Roebuck was a department store, and they put out a catalog every year, and you could actually go in that catalog. I have the catalog from 1902, and they ordered their house, and some of the furniture I recognized in the house they ordered from the catalog too. Kind of amazing. And Sears would deliver it, and almost like the modular home of the time.
But wait, who will do the foundation and the concrete and all?
I think someone would do the foundation, but talking to my grandparents, they actually built the house. There was instructions and everything was numbered.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So I think it was just all the materials, HR, like a packaged kit of all the materials to build it.
Okay.
I mean, it's hard to believe that a company that was so forward thinking, doing mail order in the 1900s, is out of business now. But
yeah.
Okay, so I'm just making notes because 9's kind of a big one, I think. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources? There's no wetlands on the property. You know, there's a couple streams that he is not within the buffer for, so code-wise, he's okay. And air quality is probably not an issue, but flora and fauna, like, so again, just making these notes because, you know, I echo the CAC's thank yous that keeping the LC buffer and protecting the trees as much as possible, even though it does get annoying, is a lot of, it does a lot of good for a lot of reasons, not just that the neighbors asked. It does a lot of good for environmental reasons as well. So I would think that the notes that we would add, and guys jump in here, I feel like we're missing one, but maybe we could put the fence in here too. But the LC buffer being maintained to the Leisure Kill is very important. We talked about that. Like there was a couple of times where we were looking at flip-flopping, you know, where the open space would be, and having the open space next to the Leisure Kill, I think is, we had said, and I agree, is very important that it's actually open space that's protecting the Leisure Kill and moving those yards away from the Leisure Kill. So if people do choose to put chemicals on them, they're further away from the water. And that the developers protecting the trees and siting the driveways to avoid trees as much as possible is also important in mitigating any changes to the natural resources. Preserving the open space helps mitigate that, and then protecting the slopes as much as possible. And do you guys want to add anything to that?
This is Joel. Could you add the fence in so we document that somewhere?
Yeah, the fence in. So that would be install a split rail fence along open to protect boundary.
And Laura, it had been mentioned that that a rain garden or something like that was being considered.
I don't know if it would be needed. I think it would actually potentially depend on the building permit. But it could be. Sometimes, like, you know, you need a place to put the gutters on a steep slope or something. You may need to build something nearby. But if you do build a rain garden, you end up having to take more trees down. So the engineers sort of figured that out in a balance.
Okay.
Laura, I know we've already mentioned it, but is that another spot to just mention the fact that Joel is donating so much land to the town it's helping people enjoy the natural resources that are there?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I just put, I mean, they sort of have that in there twice, but then also enjoying the recreational opportunities. So it's opening up additional access to the Leisure Kill. It's important to note that. Anything else we want to add in there? Okay, and for 10, that's will the proposed action result in an increase for the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? This is probably where we would want to note and make a recommendation that, you know, lot 1 is steep, and so, you know, so limiting the disturbance on the steep slope to the maximum extent, you know, possible, and then really having the planning board and engineering department, you know, review the soil erosion plan, and if it needs a rain garden or whatever it may need when it comes to that would be where we would put that, I would think.
No, that sounds like a good comment.
Also, the point about protecting the trees could be emphasized on this point because on the slope, it becomes more important. And Laura, going back to question 9, we are checking the yes box on 9. Or am I incorrect in that?
Yeah, I have to change back and forth between different when I'm making notes, so we'll go back and check those in a second.
Okay.
And we probably don't need a note on 11 unless you guys think we do. So 11 is, will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health?
No.
No. Yeah. I think that question's more for like commercial things, like if they're discharging, you know, hot water to a river or something like that. So, okay. So then,
Laura, will 10 be yes or no?
I would probably say small,
Small.
you know, but then you'd make that note unless you guys want it to be moderate to large. It's your call.
In your last comment, necessary is 1C, 2 S's.
Oh,
Well, I
will make
think,
this much better.
I mean, I'm happy to discuss, but I think 9 should be an yes.
Okay.
Because it does have an adverse change to natural resources. I mean, we are clearing forest at the end of the day.
Yes. And you know, that's just a hard kind of thing. I think with the seeker form, you have no to small. So
Okay.
it's not just no, you're saying there could be a small impact, or you have moderate to large.
Well, you
and
know,
you just
I'm
have to
looking
pick
at
it up. There's
the,
not necessarily a no. But if you do feel like it's moderate, you can click yes. There isn't any, you know, downside to that. It's just showing that you feel like it's a larger environmental impact, and then you take that into a balance on whether or not you want to recommend an environmental impact statement.
Well, maybe we
okay,
can
so
put moderate in the note, put yes, but we consider it moderate versus large. Or
Yeah, you can do that.
small to moderate.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. Like just the way the form works out, it's, you know, not always that easy.
I'm okay with that.
You want to do that one on this one too, actually? Okay. Did anybody have anything else that they wanted to add to this, or should we do
Well, I was going to ask, and this probably is not the right form to put this in, and maybe we want to just make a note later in the minutes that the town should follow through with the Conservation Advisory Committee to ensure that there's a connection between the two parcels. And I don't think it's really relevant to this particular decision, but I do want to capture it. It's the intent. And the only other thing with that is there should be some sort of bridge across that stream, small bridge.
Yeah, I agree with that. I rely on spell check.
Yeah, and you need an and in between new open space and the Nishik Nature Preserve. Right?
I will fix it all.
Okay.
And so like this is
And
just
then
like
the only other
the main points are.
the only other thing that I don't know if we want to talk about, and again, it's an external discussion. Do we want to say that we're okay with it, you know, being deeded over to the Nature Conservancy if it makes sense or not?
I support that. It's, you know, I support giving it to the Nature Conservancy. I mean, they already own Nishik. They can easily annex that.
I don't know what the ups and downs of that are, but
The town's preference is probably to give it to the Nature Conservancy. It removes some liability to us for people walking along that steep cliff. But it may end up being one way or another. I think that'll just come down to whatever works the best, because they're still going to have to cross through that open space in Park District 9.
okay.
And so that may end up having to be some kind of across District 9 too. There's some legal things that are going to have to happen to make that access work, but I definitely think it's doable.
Okay. Then why don't we just leave it open then? I don't want to put something that creates a problem.
Laura, I had a question on the form that was attached to the packet. So I'm not, please forgive my ignorance here. I'm not exactly sure what is the difference between the form in the packet and the form we just filled out. But I had a comment on the form that was in the packet on page 9, item 8B and item 8C.
Okay.
Item 8B talks about public transportation services. There is a bus that runs on that route. It's the Troy Schenectady bus, Route 374 or some such.
Yep.
But I couldn't find a bus stop super close to Shannon Boulevard. Also, item 8C, as far as I know, there are no bicycle routes on the proposed site. I mean, nobody would bike on, Route 7.
Oh, it's pedestrian accommodation, so it doesn't have to be just bicycle.
Okay, got it.
Bishop,
So-
if you're going on Route 7, the turnoff to enter Shannon Boulevard, the bus stop is right there on that pull-off.
Oh, there is. Oh, please forgive my lack of my oversight there.
Yeah.
I thought I didn't see a bus stop. Okay.
My workers take it home.
No, that's a good question. So, Ashok, this is part 1.
Okay.
So the developers, so essentially part 1 is telling us, their, all the information that they have in the environmental impact. So they give us part 1, and it shows like how much, acreage is going to be disturbed. We've got 1 acre on here, what the existing land uses are. Like you saw, like if there's buses, transportation, what the habitat is. So, and then we go and we read part 1, and then per seeker, then we fill out part 2. And so part 2 is looking at the answers in part 1, plus talking with the developer and looking at the plans to evaluate what the impacts are. So there's 3 parts to every environmental assessment. Part 1, this is part 2. And then part 3, I write up. I don't actually use their form, but I'm just typing the notes here so you guys can all see if you need to make a motion, would be the determination of significance is part 3. So part 1, developer always fills out, always, whether it's long form or short form. Part 2, we always fill out, and the questions are different between long form and short form. I actually think even though the short form is hard between no, small, and moderate, large, still easier than the long form one. And then part 3 is always our determination of significance.
Great. Thank you for the explanation. Is part 2 a standard form that I can just Google and find out?
Yeah, that's why we always use this one. We're always answering the same question.
Okay, great.
This is a short environmental assessment form because Joel changed his subdivision to a minor. There's also a long environmental assessment form for a major subdivision, which has similar questions, but it's more complicated.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, do we want to make a motion on this project? And if we do, I'd open the floor for someone to make a motion. All right, I'll be happy to make the
for
motion.
neg deck. Is that what
Okay,
we're
go
doing?
ahead, Amanda.
Yeah, I'll second
Okay,
that.
I'll second that.
Yep, I will.
Okay. Okay, Jeannie seconds it. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Sorry,
Aye.
Amanda. Sorry. You just want to clarify that you would want to add those 2 recommendations to the planning board in addition to.
Oh, yeah, as amended, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Neg deck
Got it.
amended with our recommendations.
Okay, second that with the recommendations.
I'm going to step out for
Okay,
a couple of
all
minutes,
those-
but my vote is to support. It's a yes vote for
Okay.
the neg deck.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no or nay. Show that the motion carried unanimously.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
So,
All right, moving on. Discussion items. So did we have anything to discuss about the pesticide outreach, Laura?
is the first one planning department updates? I think I just wanted to go through quickly with you guys.
No, but we can change that. Why don't we change that and put that up?
Okay,
We'll move to
sorry.
the planning department. Yep.
So planning department updates, we may be seeing a proposal. We may be seeing a proposal for a property on Leisha Kill to change into a farm. We haven't gotten the application. We've only been in discussions with the owners. So I just wanted to give you guys heads up Feel free to drive
To
up.
change into a farm, like to have a farm in Niskayuna?
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, that's
It's not,
great.
yeah, it's not decided yet, but it could be coming. And so that one would come to you guys. There's also a very large carport that is potentially going up on the end of Anthony Street. So if you guys remember, we recently went through Jackson Demolition moving to Anthony Street. Across the road from Jackson Demolition is the J-Dog junk collecting outfit. And they may need a pretty large carport on the outside of their property that Clark's been working with them on. So there's a potential that you guys would see that one at your next meeting. And Clark, I made a note. There's one more we wanted to just give him a heads up on. Do you remember?
I don't remember, but I know just to give you the scale of that carport, I think it's 60 feet long by maybe 27 or 28 feet. So it's pretty big.
Wow. That's almost a garage.
Yeah, that's a really big carport.
Yeah.
I know, I guess the other one we were just talking about is Shannon. Okay, so we got everything. So that's what we wanted to update you on. Oh, yes, we're good.
Anything new on that restaurant in on the not
Next to the co-op. Yeah, next to the co-op or the Langs.
It had a public hearing and there wasn't any comment at the town board level for the public hearing. They deferred action till December because I think they just wanted to, have a little more time to consider it. So they would potentially be taking action on it at the end of December. But kind of related is they also, it's not related because it would happen regardless of whether or not anything was going to go into that building, but the town did award a contract to take a look at that whole intersection, which we've been talking about for a really long time. But we might be able to look at the whole thing as a package and make that better and add some parking over there, which may help with some of the parking concerns around the neighborhood. Because I know you guys passed that on, but you said you really got to look at parking, which everybody kind of understands, and the planning board's also really looking at the parking too.
So Laura, just to clarify, so that study, would they only be looking at traffic and parking or other development related issues to the area?
They're looking at everything in the area really. So there's a couple prongs like traffic calming on the surrounding streets, treatments to the surrounding streets that would slow cars down, and then reconfiguring that intersection to see if there's a way that we can neck it down and add some parking and add some green space and make it look more inviting to pedestrians and have a streetscape, maybe a buffer to the residential properties, but still invite people to shop at, the businesses. And then this is still we really don't know if it's going to work, but just evaluating if there's a reasonable way without negatively impacting residential properties on Crescent to put some more on-street or off-street parking on Crescent, largely for those apartment buildings that really need it. So we're trying to figure all of that out in some conceptual ways that would be a benefit to the neighborhood.
Oh, okay. So the parking to replace the parking that's kind of like in the alleyway for those apartments, is that the apartments that you're talking about, the houses on Crescent?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I can't hear you.
You may be on mute, Laura.
Oh, am I mute? Am I muted?
Now you're not. But...
Oh, okay. Is that those apartment units really only have one parking spot per unit. And that causes problems in the wintertime, but that's my understanding. You wouldn't be able to build those apartment units right now without two spots. And it is a little bit unusual for an apartment unit not to only need one spot. I mean, in some cases it works, but most families right now have to have dual incomes, tend to need two cars until the world changes. So there's kind of my understanding is there's actually a need for on-street parking and it's not allowed overnight. And so there might be a way for us to figure that out so that it works for everybody. Because if you put on-street parking that allows overnight for those people that live there, But then it gets released during the day and could help with any overflow parking for the co-op, as long as it's done tastefully and it increases property values, not decreasing property values. That's like the thing you'd have to figure out. Like, you got to plant trees or do something to screen it so that, you know, there's not too much parking in that area. You have to do it really, really thoughtfully and tastefully. And so I don't know if it'll work, but it's one of the concept things that they're looking at. Did that answer your question, Tina? Yeah. We're gonna miss you. I'm so sad you're leaving us.
Yeah. So yeah, this is my last meeting, everyone.
Yeah.
Tina, you're leaving?
No, you didn't do anything, so I would be happy to stay, but I'm just getting a little too busy with some other activities. So yeah, it's been fun.
So I forget, how long have you served on the committee, Tina?
I think it's only been 2 years. So not very long compared to some of you. But I've learned a ton.
We certainly appreciated your input, and you will certainly be missed.
Oh, thank you. I'll miss all of you, but I'm sure I'll see you around town because our circles are all overlap in a lot of different ways.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
For sure.
Laura, did you want to move on to the discussion topics? And so the pesticide outreach, do we have any update on that, or?
I don't know. So I guess it said this is that we have finally finished the picture and we have it sent to Knott Street, and we're waiting for them to tell us how much it cost for the number that we wanted to buy. So that's what we're sort of waiting on. And now I'm going to start breaking down. If anybody wants to help me, I was going to start breaking down by, month by month of, lawn care. So if anybody wants to take a month, or we could, troubleshoot that, I thought that would be my next thing, so that we could, have that up, what we could do, each month to, post on our website or that sort of thing.
One
What you
thing
could
I've
do to help with
noticed
your
is,
lawn.
the chemical companies, like, they go door to door from the end of February to the beginning of April. Like, that's their big sales period. They, I think, literally knock on every door. They certainly knocked on my door more than once, even with the pandemic. And like, many people sign up because, they just buy into the sales pitch. Two of my neighbors in my street started doing it this year, and they've never done it in the past. And I think we should do obviously we can't go door to door, but I think we should do some kind of outreach on our own and say that this is not a good idea.
Yeah, so just to follow up on what Ellen said, like, we want to buy the signs this year so we have them, because the budget this year and next year is really tight. We did add something at the bottom, which I think we talked about last time. So if people want more than one sign, they can reimburse the town for the cost of the sign, or they can do it anyway if they want to. We have the website set, although it's not live. And I believe that the pesticide outreach is up. So it's really just finalizing the sign so that we can do an email blast to everybody about the program, and finalizing, just how it shows up on the website. I don't disagree with Jackie, that our website could use some work. I can show you guys, though. I started writing a summary of the CAC that I can share with you guys before we put it on the website, and actually all our boards, so that we can be a little more transparent. I think people have had that complaint before. And then when we do these monthly emails to people, maybe at the end of every email, it's April, make sure you're spreading
Maybe
your
like,
gas doing scope. But at the end of every single email, you could have the pesticide-free pledge link at the bottom. like these tips, take the pesticide-free pledge, and we could literally put that in every monthly email that we send out.
maybe we could just do maybe 5 steps. It's got to be short and simple and not overwhelming, you know, because nobody has time to.
Yeah, like very simple, like May, well, probably not May, maybe like July. You feel like you need to irrigate your lawn? Put that can out and only water it in it. That's all it needs. You know what I mean?
So yeah, so I mean that I guess is why I kind of wanted to put together that month to month, but maybe maybe what I need to do is just set a target so that if February, February and March to make sure we have we do our little pitch for the pesticide free and like how to go about doing that and make it the same time, I guess, as all the other people come out and ask you to do your lawn care, and we'll see what happens, I guess. I don't know. I'm open for ideas.
Like the similar to the meet and greet that we did with the meadow, the pollinator meadow. Can we do a kind of a meet and greet in Old Niskayuna and one in a couple of other places, and have some signs handy, and talk to people about this initiative. One hopes that at that time there will be more vaccination, and at least the COVID situation should improve a little bit.
So how about having a table at the farmers market in the summer?
I like that.
I like both those ideas. I like I'm okay with going to some neighborhoods, and the farmers market sounds like when do they start that? Is that only in August though, or?
So this is the first year that the farmers market ran. So the last 2 years have been more and more. So this year, instead of being at the co-op, it was at town hall, and I think it was every weekend. Like the first summer, it was like the first, I think it was only one weekend or one Saturday a month. So next year, don't know. Hopefully, it'll still be at town hall, because I think that was really nice for the community to all gather there.
I just can't remember if it was June, July, and August, or if it was July and August. That was my.
Have been only July and August, but next year I think that there's a lot of positive feedback about the farmers market. So I imagine that if it makes sense to start in June, that they would try and start in June.
Okay.
And I wonder if we can reach out to other people as well who aren't going to the farmers market, because I imagine people who go to the farmers market may be much more inclined to be anti-pesticide, that kind of thing, right? But there are other, there's the Nextdoor app that people have, I guess, where neighbors tell each other stuff, and there's some other, what's the other thing I get in my email where people are always saying, oh, I can babysit or I can dog sit, and if we can get information out through those venues too.
The Sunday neighbor email thing. What is that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the other
neighbor
thing
to neighbor.
Is,
neighbor to neighbor.
Neighbor to neighbor, that's it.
If we have a Niska Day celebration, in the past we've had booths there. That might be a good outreach. Although they would probably have already signed the contracts with the chemical companies by then, because that's usually in May. But that might be something.
So those signs that I have a question about the signs that are being made. Are those for people's personal lawns to put? Like they can just say, I want one, and then just need to say, okay, I think that will go a long way.
No, they have to actually sign a pledge that says they're not going to put pesticides on their lawn.
Right.
We're not just handing out those cute signs.
No, not at all. But it's like, everybody has signs on their lawns, the bigger ones that talk about various things. And I don't know how big these are. How big are these?
Oh, you know what? I have one upstairs. I could go grab it and show you if you wanted while you guys talk about something else. But
So Jeannie, they're smaller than the regular lawn signs that you see. You know,
Okay,
they're smaller
the
than the
little-
clinical signs, for example.
okay.
We were trying to, I think, mirror that. Like, it's a little bit bigger than those, but those little flags that say pesticides have been put down, like don't enter,
Yeah.
they're a little
Right.
bit bigger than that, but they essentially say pesticide free, all beings welcome. And it has a little-
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, do we want to talk about Lomo while we're waiting for Ellen to get back with the sign?
Okay, so I mean that one, I think we talked about it, quite a bit at one of the other meetings. I think the outreach went well. We got a lot of good feedback. We got to refine our map and figure out exactly how we're going to handle. There is a frisbee golf hole in the middle of where we are going to do the Lomo, so we got to just kind of adjust the boundaries a little bit. But I think that that's a go in the spring. And one of the other things that I want us to work over over the winter is if we can get people to donate wildflowers or pick up seeds or in some way, because one of the things that we heard from the residents is that they would really like to see, it doesn't have to be through the whole lawn, but definitely like up by the fence where you're getting that initial, like, okay, the lawn is higher, to see that flash of color and those pretty flowers there, so that it's very inviting as a meadow, and not just overgrown grass was something that I heard. So, I will do everything that I can, to see, like, I know Monarch Watch has had, plugs and stuff, but anything we can do to find some wildflower plugs between now and spring that we could add to that field, I think would go a long way. And then I think
Laura, sorry to interrupt. I spoke to the people who did the meadow in Clifton Park. A gentleman named Frank Berlin and a lady named Isabel Prescott. And between the two of them, they have some leftover wildflower seeds that they're willing to give.
that's great. Yeah. And seeds are good too, but I think if we can get some plugs, that would also help, because the seeds are going to take a little while.
Okay.
So we want to balance, but any seeds we can get, let's take, because we can definitely plant them. I'm a super seed planter, but if we can get a couple other farther along plants, that would also be helpful. Just to help the non-patient people in the world that want the colorful splash, like me.
Ellen, would you like to share your sign? I see you brought it down.
can you see it?
Yep.
So it's like that size. I don't know. Is that transmit over Zoom? I don't even know. So
Yeah, no, I think we get a good idea.
And
So-
it's very sturdy.
Anyway.
It's very sturdy. I got to like test it.
Yeah, good.
Right, Ellen?
no. Well, it is what it is. I really like the shape, and I think that it came out really well. It took forever to get it right, but I really like it, and I think everybody else will too. And I'm looking forward to having it to be a little check mark on our way to trying to turn Niskayuna into pesticide free.
Yeah, no, it's a great looking sign. I don't see why anybody wouldn't want to sign the pledge just to get the sign.
Yeah, sign jealousy. Yeah.
Ellen, like you were talking about like this month to month stuff. I would really like to do some personal conversations, like speaking to people in person. And obviously, we are not going to knock on everyone's door. But if you are willing, I'd like to knock on a few people's doors. Like pick a neighborhood where pesticide use is like very high, and and just have some conversations with those neighbors. Like one particular area is the other side of Balltown Road, the other side from Old Niskayuna, like the same side as the high school. The properties are joining the GE Research Center. Like I think it's very high usage there. Like if somebody will come with me, I would do personal outreach.
I'm definitely willing to do outreach. I don't know if I'm willing to knock on people's doors, but I certainly would be present someplace and have them come to me like we did for the you know, the low mo. Yeah, so
Yeah,
but
that's fine. We can do that. Like we can like send a an email or something and say, here is 3 locations where you can catch us and come talk to us, please. And, look at the signs, all that. I like the idea of like actual contact with people.
yeah, no, yes, I agree. So, but we'll make it. Let's make a
Okay.
plan.
Yeah, I think that as the winter progresses, I think we're going to have a good sense of, what we can do and what we're not. I think going door to door right now might not be the best thing. People might react the wrong way, but in the spring it could be completely different. And I think whatever is appropriate would be really great. Laura, did you want to move on to the Celts Farm update?
Yeah, that actually tags in to the LOMO. Is just one of the things that came up for the Celts Farm is the open space going to be preserved and deed restricted, but the town board is really supportive of the LOMO, and it's looking for other places that we could do it. And so where that looping field is, we also want to designate that as like a LOMO biodiversity area, and come up with a maintenance plan that we kind of like brush hog it every 5 years or whatever, so that trees don't grow up there and the wildflowers continue to flourish. So so that's exciting. We'll take the areas that are already kind of no mow and preserve them as low mow, and then build one in the spring, so we kind of have 2 to be working on for Celts Farm and the Blatnick Park. And I mean, I think that we kind of like landed on that we're going to have a really simple sign out there, and that we could have like a more informational sign over by the golf range. But that's something we should finalize, for early spring.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds great. So I have one topic that I'd like to bring up, and it comes out of a conversation I had with Ashok, and I talked to Laura about it a little bit today. One of the things that's really not renewable in the town is open space. And we have spent a lot of time talking about how important it is. We hear that from the residents and stuff, but I think it would be a good project for this committee or a subcommittee of this committee to start thinking about doing a survey of open space, what we have, identifying important parcels and stuff. And I think like the property that Joel just came before the board this fall along the Elijah was something that, I think a lot of people didn't even realize there was an opportunity there. So, performing a survey of that type would be really important. It could be a good planning tool. And then the other thing too, I think that we might want to consider doing is there's a lot of grant opportunities. There's also a lot of town mechanisms that could be put in place to basically build up a either like a war chest or a zoning tools or something that would help preserve some of the open spaces. For example, if a large parcel came up and it was critical, it might provide more opportunities for the town to intervene as a community to save an open space. So I just wanted to put that out at this meeting. And I think this is something we can do in the coming year if the committee is amenable to it, or we can form a subcommittee about it. I just wanted to sort of raise it now so we could all start thinking about it.
Laura, did we do that for Climate Smart? Did we do
it's the same item? Yeah. I mean, I did actually ask for the natural resources inventory to be in the budget this year, but the budget is just a total.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really blame them. It's just it's a total disaster this year, so they weren't able to fund it. But we did talk about using like an intern, and that is what you started. It's just, I mean, I think that the company that runs the Climate Smart certification, NYSERD or CDRPC or somewhere in the state does it. They estimate that to do a full one of those, it costs about $25,000. So So it's certainly not a small undertaking, but it's something that we could get working on. And the more work we do, the more grant eligible we are. And we do have the ability to use an intern. So
Yeah, and I see this as a broader group, but it could be sponsored out of this group, this organization. It's certainly in line with our mission.
I'd like to quickly, say something about what they're doing in Clifton Park. Like they have something called the Open Space Committee, which is a town committee. And they have a separate entity called the Friends of the Open Space Committee, which is not an official town committee, but made out of private citizens. And they have, like Doc mentioned, the war chest. They have a substantial war chest. They have an amazing fundraising machine. And they have set aside some 2,000 plus acres in the town of conservation, in the town of Clifton Park, as quote unquote town park. Apparently, it's some kind of designation that protects it from development. They do rigorous rounds of fundraising all throughout the year. They keep the community involved by outreach events. And they actually provide money to the town to buy land to set aside as parks. I was very impressed by how well organized they were, and they actually have a town paid position called the Open Space Coordinator, who coordinates all of this. I had a brief conversation with them and asked to be invited to one of their meetings. But going back to what Dot said, even though the town doesn't have budget for us, like we can do simple things like looking at maps and figuring out what parcels are available and how we can protect them and so forth. Like, we don't have to solve the whole thing in a day or a year, but we can start.
yeah, and it does tie in. I mean, the CAC, if you read, why New York State created them, they sort of have two functions. Really, one of them is the secret stuff that you guys do all the time, and the other one is truly like that you are the guardians of the natural resource inventory. And we saw this during our secret code updates, but you guys could theoretically be submitting a report to the town board every year about what the status is of our natural resource inventory and our open spaces. So we can't do that this year. We haven't done it before, but if we start working on it, we could get a rough list going, and then we could, have interns go and look at things and just get us information. And as a subcommittee, just kind of have it be a regular report that we're working on. The first year it may be a very rough list of natural inventories, but the more we work on it, the better it gets.
Yeah, there was back, I did see pamphlets that the CAC put out in the 70s when it was first established that were like reports of natural resources or surveys. I don't know if they're still around the town, but I remember seeing them.
I think I've said this before, but Paul Schaefer was a accessory member of the CAC. The original resolution that created the CAC in 1971 or 1969 or whenever it was has Paul Schaefer's name on it, maybe even earlier than that.
Well, when I first joined the CAC, John Brown was on the board, and John Brown was basically responsible for the bike path through Niskayuna. We're a big advocate for it. That's what I've heard. So things can happen, which is really great. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there, and we can think about it, and we can talk about it in our January meeting. So
sounds good. I don't.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that I like the idea very well. I'd be more than happy to help. I'm not sure that I can, lead on anything because I don't have the bandwidth of it. I know I just need to be told what to do.
Well, if there is a subcommittee formed, I will volunteer to lead the subcommittee and do the heavy lifting.
So why don't we think about it over the next month, and then we can sort of like spend a little time maybe in our January meeting and brainstorm what that might look like.
Sure.
It's a brand new initiative for this committee, and we can sort of think about some of the things we want to accomplish, some of the things that we think might be out of scope, and then if we want to do a subcommittee or have a full committee and just talk about that. And I think
Okay.
That's fine.
so. With that, again, I'd like to thank you, Tina, for all the stuff you did for the committee, and we certainly are going to miss you.
Thanks.
Yay, Tina.
Good luck.
I think
And again,
Wait, can we just go back? Sorry, Tina, we really are going to miss you, but we did have the 2021 schedule, which Tina doesn't care about anymore.
yeah, I did forget. Yes.
And then if anybody had any issues with it or not, like if we just want to say, yeah, that looks good so that I can post the January meeting or not, it's up to you guys. And I will send you a formal email, but also if you want to continue on the CAC, like make sure you respond to my email. If you want to continue, because we do the appointments in early January as well. So so maybe just any discussion on the schedule or approve it, and then I'll send you an email.
Yeah, I looked at it. I didn't see any conflicts.
Well, I don't have any issue with the dates, but I wanted to know if there is any chance of starting sooner. I have young children, and like my daughter got upset a couple of times. So, like, is there any chance of starting at 6 o'clock instead of 7 o'clock? I suppose not many people are in favor, so I'll drop it.
The CAC is mildly regulatory, and so typically the regulatory meetings start at 7 p.m. because you have to give applicants time to go home and get their stuff together and come back. Even though virtual meetings, you've been actually virtual probably more than you've been in person, and also like engineers and stuff. It doesn't mean that you couldn't start it at 6. Like we can think about it, but typically our meetings have been actually. I think when I started. If you remember, they used to be at 7:30 or 8. And
They were at 7:30, yeah.
7? Yeah, so I mean, it's not impossible to change them. It's customary to have them be at 7.
Okay, understood.
I'd be okay with 6.
I'm actually okay with 6 too, but it does sometimes get harder for applicants too. So there's something for you to think about.
Can we do 6:30, like a pilot a 6:30 meeting and just once and see how it goes?
Well, why don't I send out an email so that we're not putting people on the spot, and I'll just kind of collect feedback and then see where that goes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ever diplomat.
Laura, you do want us to vote on the calendar, so
I'm in favor of the calendar. Oh, sorry.
I propose we accept it. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Hearing none, the motion is carried. So are we good now?
Yeah, and thanks,
Okay,
Tina.
I make a motion that we adjourn for the evening, and I'd just like to say, everybody have a great and safe holiday coming up. I know that's going to be a little different this year, but that's the way it is. And we'll see you all next year, except for Tina. We'll miss you.
I think you'll see me somewhere. You'll see me around.
Yeah, we'll
Definitely.
You'll see me around.
Regularly.
I'll be emailing you asking for stuff, donations.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
All right. Good night, everyone. Have good New Year.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good night.
Enjoy your holidays.
Happy holidays.